Some dramatic new video tonight of a violent pirate attack on the high seas.
On March 18, 2006, the Gulf of Aden was unusually quiet. The sun had not yet risen, and the U.S. Navy cruiser USS Cape St. George and the destroyer USS Gonzalez were patrolling international waters as part of their anti-piracy mission. This was one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, connecting the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea, but it was also one of the most dangerous. Somali pirates, operating from lawless coasts, had been terrorizing commercial ships for months.
Hey, you wanna die?
The sailors on watch that morning were tense, scanning the horizon constantly for signs of trouble. Then it happened. Radar picked up 3 fast-moving skiffs, heading directly toward a merchant vessel. The American sailors knew exactly what was happening. These were not fishing boats. They were pirate vessels, small, fast, and armed. Before the Navy could even issue a warning, the pirates opened fire. The crack of machine guns echoed across the water, followed by the streaking smoke trails of rocket-propelled grenades. Explosions rocked the waves. One RPG narrowly missed the USS Gonzalez, slamming into the sea with a violent splash. The Americans wasted no time. The order came down: return fire. The destroyer's .50 caliber machine guns roared to life, cutting through the darkness like thunder. The Cape St. George opened up with its automatic weapons, targeting the pirate skiffs with devastating accuracy. Within seconds, one pirate boat was shredded and sank into the sea. Another was disabled, its engine destroyed, leaving the pirates scrambling for survival. The third tried to flee, zigzagging desperately to escape the barrage. But there was nowhere to run. Navy helicopters swooped in overhead, ensuring no escape. By the end of the firefight, around 12 pirates had been captured. On the American side, there were 0 casualties. The battle was short, violent, and decisive. This was one of the first major confrontations of the modern piracy era. It sent shockwaves through the region. The message was clear: the U.S. Navy would not hesitate to respond with overwhelming firepower. But if the pirates thought this would be the end, they were wrong. In fact, their attacks only grew bolder. And 1 year later, an incident would take place that no one could have predicted. An event that brought together 2 sworn enemies on the same side. On October 29, 2007, the North Korean cargo ship Dai Hong Dan was sailing about 70 miles off the coast of Somalia. The crew had just delivered a shipment of sugar to Mogadishu and was headed back out to sea. But before they could escape Somali waters, armed pirates stormed the ship. Within minutes, the crew was overpowered. The pirates brandished AK-47s, locking the sailors in a compartment and seizing control of the vessel. Their demand was simple: ransom. North Korea, secretive and isolated, was not a country that often received help from outsiders, but the Dai Hong Dan's crew managed to send out a distress call. And to their shock, the response came not from allies, but from the United States. The USS James E. Williams, a U.S. Navy destroyer, was the nearest ship in the area. The Americans set course immediately. Now, imagine the irony of this moment. The United States and North Korea had been bitter enemies for decades. There was no trust, no cooperation, no goodwill. Yet here they were, the U.S. Navy steaming toward a hijacked North Korean vessel to rescue its crew. When the James E. Williams approached, the North Korean sailors staged a desperate counterattack from inside their ship. Using makeshift weapons, knives, and raw determination, they fought back against their captors. Gunfire broke out on deck as pirates tried to maintain control. The Americans launched helicopters and small boats to provide support. Overhead, the thump of rotor blades filled the sky as U.S. forces watched the chaos unfold. The North Koreans, emboldened by the sight of American backup, pressed harder. The pirates couldn't withstand the combined assault. After hours of confusion and violence, the hijackers surrendered. 7 pirates were captured, 1 was killed, and the Dai Hong Dan was free. What happened next was astonishing. North Korean officers, normally hostile toward anything American, personally thanked the U.S. Navy for saving their lives. For a brief moment, enemies became allies. The entire episode was surreal, a reminder that sometimes survival overrides politics. The U.S. Navy had just saved a North Korean ship from pirates, and the world took notice. By 2009, piracy in the region had escalated into a full-blown crisis. Hundreds of ships had been attacked, and the ransom industry was booming. Somali pirates were pulling in millions of dollars, emboldened by their success. International pressure mounted for stronger action. And that's when another American vessel came under fire. This time, a ship carrying food aid for starving families. On April 14, 2009, the MV Liberty Sun, an American cargo ship, was sailing toward Mombasa, Kenya. On board were thousands of tons of food aid, desperately needed in East Africa. But to Somali pirates, it was just another target. As the ship cut through the Indian Ocean, pirate skiffs appeared on the horizon, moving fast. Without hesitation, the pirates opened fire. Bullets slammed into the hull. RPGs exploded against the ship, shattering windows and tearing holes into its side. Inside, the crew scrambled. They sent out a desperate distress call. "Mayday! Mayday! Liberty Sun under attack!" Their voices cracked with fear as gunfire rattled through the ship. The captain maneuvered violently, zigzagging through the waves to avoid being boarded. For hours, the ship endured relentless fire. The crew huddled in fear, but they refused to stop. Help was on the way. The USS Bainbridge, a U.S. Navy destroyer, was racing toward them at full speed. This was the same ship that had famously rescued Captain Richard Phillips just days earlier in the Maersk, Alabama hijacking. The pirates knew what was coming. Facing the prospect of U.S. firepower, they fled. Soon after, French naval forces captured 11 pirates connected to the attack. The Liberty Sun was badly damaged, riddled with bullet holes and blast marks, but it had survived. The food aid reached its destination. The crew lived. It was another close call, and another reminder that piracy had become a global menace. By now, the problem could no longer be ignored. The international community launched one of the largest naval operations of the 21st century. In August 2009, NATO created Operation Ocean Shield, a 7-year campaign to combat piracy in the Horn of Africa and the Indian Ocean. The scale was massive. Dozens of warships from the United States, Europe, and beyond patrolled international waters. Helicopters circled overhead, drones gathered intelligence, and convoys escorted vulnerable merchant vessels. It was a full-scale naval war against piracy. One of the most dramatic encounters during this operation involved the USS Sterett, an American destroyer. The ship was engaged in negotiations with pirates who had taken hostages when the situation suddenly turned deadly. Without warning, the pirates fired RPGs directly at the destroyer. Imagine standing on deck as rockets streak across the sea toward your ship. The Sterett immediately returned fire. Its weapons barked with precision, striking the pirates' positions and forcing them into retreat. Navy SEALs prepared for a boarding operation, while NATO forces coordinated support from sea and air. In the end, the hostages were freed, the pirates were captured, and the Sterret emerged without casualties. This was just one of many encounters during Operation Ocean Shield. Over 7 years, the mission dismantled pirate networks, captured hundreds of suspects, and restored safety to global shipping lanes. By the time the operation ended in 2016, piracy in the region had nearly collapsed. Looking back, these 4 stories, the action of March 2006, the Dai Hong Dan rescue in 2007, the Liberty Sun attack in 2009, and the campaigns of Operation Ocean Shield, reveal the strange and dangerous world of modern piracy. These weren't tales of treasure maps and parrots. They were stories of AK-47s, RPGs, and desperate men willing to risk everything for ransom money. They were also stories of bravery, survival, and even unlikely alliances. For a brief moment in history, the U.S. Navy fought alongside French sailors, NATO allies, and even North Koreans, all against the same threat. By the mid-2000s teens, piracy had all but disappeared from the Horn of Africa. International pressure, overwhelming military force, and improved defenses on commercial ships had broken the cycle, but the threat never vanished completely. Experts warn that wherever poverty, lawlessness, and desperation collide, piracy can rise again. Somewhere, someday, another crew may send out a desperate mayday call, praying for rescue. And once again, the world will look to the horizon, hoping that help arrives in time. So what do you think? Should the United States Navy continue patrolling international waters to protect global shipping, even when it means acting as the world's police? Or should local governments take more responsibility for their own waters? Let me know in the comments below. And if these stories shocked you as much as they shocked me, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more incredible true naval stories, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Because sometimes the truth really is stranger and far more thrilling than fiction.